Fresh reports circulating across regional and international media claim that a massive explosion near Jerusalem may have been linked to Iranian retaliation targeting sensitive Israeli military infrastructure, though Israeli authorities have not officially confirmed that a secret military facility was struck. The incident comes amid sharply escalating tensions between Iran and Israel following months of missile exchanges, covert operations, and regional military escalation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to lead Israel during the ongoing regional conflict, while Iran's government and military leadership remain under intense international scrutiny after a series of retaliatory missile and drone operations. Recent reports also indicate that the wider Middle East conflict has expanded beyond direct Iran-Israel exchanges, drawing in Gulf states and increasing fears of a broader regional war. A night of fear and uncertainty unfolded across Israel after a massive explosio lit up the skies near Jerusalem, triggering panic among residents and raising urgent questions about what exactly had been targeted. Videos spreading rapidly across social media showed towering flames, thick smoke, and emergency crews rushing toward the blast zone as air raid sirens echoed through nearby neighborhoods. The explosion came at a time when tensions between Iran and Israel are already at one of their most dangerous points in years. Reports from regional media and security observers suggested the possibility that the strike may have involved a sensitive Israeli military location, although Israeli authorities moved quickly to limit speculation and withheld detailed information about the exact site involved. Residents described scenes of chaos shortly after midnight. Windows shook violently across several districts, while frightened civilians rushed into shelters fearing another incoming missile barrage. Some eyewitnesses said the blast wave could be felt miles away, intensifying fears that a major strategic installation may have been hit. Security forces immediately sealed off large sections of the affected area. Emergency responders battled flames through the night while military helicopters were seen circling overhead. Israeli media outlets reported unusually tight restrictions on information surrounding the incident, fueling further speculation online about the nature of the target. The incident unfolded against the backdrop of a rapidly expanding confrontation between Iran and Israel that has transformed the wider Middle East into a high-risk conflict zone. In recent months, both countries have exchanged missile strikes, cyber operations, covert attacks, and accusations of targeting strategic facilities. Iran has repeatedly warned that Israeli military operations against Iranian interests would face direct retaliation. Israeli officials, meanwhile, have continued insisting that they will act aggressively against what they describe as growing threats from Tehran's missile and military networks. Military analysts noted that the timing of the explosion is particularly significant because Israel has recently intensified operations targeting underground missile infrastructure and strategic Iranian military assets. Reports earlier this year indicated that Israeli forces were preparing expanded attacks on deeply buried missile installations connected to Iran's ballistic missile program. At the same time, Iranian military officials have openly discussed the use of increasingly advanced missile systems capable of penetrating sophisticated air defense networks. Analysts believe some of these systems were specifically designed to challenge Israel's layered missile defense architecture. The dramatic blast near Jerusalem has therefore triggered intense debate over whether Iran may have succeeded in hitting a high-value strategic target inside Israel. One regional security expert described the explosion as potentially one of the most sensitive incidents since the beginning of the current escalation, warning that both sides now appear willing to cross previously avoided red lines. Israeli authorities did not immediately disclose casualty figures or release detailed assessments regarding the damage. However, emergency services confirmed that rescue teams remained active at multiple locations through the early morning hours. Social media footage showed emergency vehicles flooding nearby streets while plumes of smoke continued rising long after the initial explosion. Some videos appeared to capture secondary detonations, though officials have not verified those reports. The Israeli military acknowledged that security incidents had occurred, but avoided directly addressing claims involving a secret military installation. Instead, officials focused on urging the public to follow emergency guidelines and avoid spreading unverified information online. Meanwhile, Iranian-linked media outlets quickly amplified claims that strategic Israeli infrastructure had been struck successfully. Several commentators aligned with Tehran described the incident as evidence that Israel's defenses are no longer impenetrable. The growing information war surrounding the explosion reflects the broader psychological battle now unfolding alongside military operations across the region. Over recent months, both Israel and Iran have increasingly relied on public messaging campaigns designed to project strength while undermining the morale of their opponents. Claims of successful strikes, secret operations, and intelligence penetrations have become central features of the confrontation. Reports earlier this month suggested that covert military coordination involving regional actors may also be reshaping the conflict. Allegations emerged that Gulf countries had quietly participated in anti-Iran operations despite publicly supporting de-escalation efforts. At the same time, speculation has intensified regarding the existence of covert operational hubs and hidden military facilities throughout the region. Some reports claim that Israeli intelligence and military planners established secret logistical networks closer to Iranian territory to support long-range operations. Those reports added to the atmosphere of secrecy now surrounding many military developments in the Middle East. The latest explosion has also renewed scrutiny over the vulnerability of critical infrastructure across Israel. Despite Israel maintaining one of the world's most sophisticated missile defense systems, recent attacks have demonstrated that no defensive network can guarantee total protection during large-scale barrages. Iranian missile tactics have reportedly evolved significantly during the current confrontation. Analysts monitoring the conflict say Tehran has increasingly relied on mixed attack strategies involving ballistic missiles, drones, and advanced munitions designed to complicate interception efforts. Several previous strikes linked to Iran caused damage across Israeli territory, including incidents involving missile debris and impacts near sensitive areas. The broader regional conflict has already transformed military calculations throughout the Middle East. Shipping routes, energy infrastructure, military bases, and intelligence facilities across several countries have become increasingly vulnerable as tensions spread beyond the original battlefield. International diplomats have repeatedly warned that continued escalation risks triggering a wider regional war that could disrupt global energy markets and destabilize multiple governments simultaneously. The United States has remained deeply involved in the unfolding crisis. American officials continue coordinating closely with Israeli leadership while also maintaining a large military presence across the Gulf region. Washington has warned Iran against expanding attacks on American personnel or allied facilities. At the same time, American officials have privately expressed concern that the conflict may be entering a far more dangerous phase. Reports also indicate that strategic military assets have been repositioned throughout the region as contingency planning intensifies. Diplomatic efforts to contain the confrontation have so far struggled to gain traction. Several proposed mediation initiatives involving regional and international powers have either stalled or collapsed amid deep mistrust between the opposing sides. Inside Israel, the latest explosion has intensified political pressure on the government to demonstrate control over the security situation. Public anxiety has risen sharply as civilians face repeated alerts, missile threats, and fears of broader escalation. Many Israelis woke to images of burning structures and emergency sirens dominating television coverage. The uncertainties surrounding the exact target only amplified speculation that highly sensitive infrastructure may have been affected. Some residents described feeling that this country was entering a new phase of conflict, unlike previous rounds of fighting. A resident living near the affected area said the explosion felt like an earthquake, adding that people initially believed multiple missiles had struck simultaneously. Military analysts noted that if a sensitive Israeli facility was indeed targeted successfully, the implications could extend well beyond immediate physical damage. Symbolically, even a limited strike on protected infrastructure would carry enormous psychological significance during such a volatile standoff. Iranian officials have repeatedly framed their military operations as demonstrations of deterrence and strategic reach. Tehran has argued that Israeli operations inside Iran would no longer go unanswered. The conflict has already seen extraordinary developments over recent months, including reports of attacks on underground missile sites, covert regional coordination, cyber warfare campaigns, and escalating naval tensions linked to two-thirds. East Strait of Hormuz, global markets are also closely monitoring developments. Energy traders fear that any sustained regional escalation could threaten critical oil shipping routes and destabilize international supply chains. Meanwhile, intelligence agencies across several countries are racing to determine whether the latest incident represents an isolated strike or part of a broader coordinated campaign. Security officials throughout the region remain concerned about the possibility of retaliatory cycles accelerating further. Every major strike now risks triggering another response, creating a rapidly intensifying pattern that becomes increasingly difficult to contain diplomatically. As investigations continue into the explosion near Jerusalem, authorities are expected to maintain strict control over sensitive information relating to military infrastructure and operational damage assessments. For now, many of the most important questions remain unanswered. Was the explosion the result of a direct Iranian strike? Did a strategic Israeli military facility actually sustain damage? Or was the incident linked to missile interception systems, secondary detonations, or another security-related event entirely? What is already clear, however, is that the confrontation between Iran and Israel has entered an extraordinarily dangerous stage. The combination of military escalation, covert operations, regional alliances, missile warfare, and information battles is reshaping the security landscape of the Middle East in real time. Both sides continue signaling that they are prepared for prolonged confrontation. And with every new explosion, missile launch, and retaliatory warning, fears grow that the region may be moving closer to a conflict far larger than either side initially intended. One Israeli security observer summarized the atmosphere bluntly, warning that the Middle East is now operating on the edge of a much wider war as emergency crews continue examining the blasé. And intelligence agencies piece together the sequence of events. The world watches closely for the next move in one of the most dangerous geopolitical confrontations currently unfolding anywhere on the planet.